church this week. What do you guys think? Yeah. I love that we can have the diversity, that we celebrate here, that we can have praise dancing as the choir sings, that we can talk about sexuality, and it's just as normal as can be. Now, how many of you had never heard about asexuality before? Please raise your hand. Yeah. I had no idea about it, and about this sexual identity, and I was so glad that John pointed it out to me, because it makes a difference in our lives. It makes a difference because there are people who are asexual that feel lonely. There are people that feel put out and are put out. There are people that need to know that God loves them just the way they are. Haven't many of us felt that same experience? Yeah, we have. And I'm so glad that we're a church that makes a difference. Yesterday, I was blessed to be at a conference. It was called TIES. And I forget what TIES stands for. It just left my mind. Sherry, can you remind me? Transgender Information and Empowerment Summit. That's right. And this is what I experienced yesterday. I was walking around and I met a lot of people I didn't even know I knew. They're like, well, hi, Pastor Kenny, how are you? I'm fine. And they're like, are you trans? I was like, no. No. But does that matter? And they were like, no. And it was wonderful. We had a workshop, and I'm glad to say that I don't want to take too much credit for this, but I'm going to strut about it. Our workshop, our piano was completely full. Sherry reminded me, look at that, it was standing room only. I said, of course I'm here. But it was amazing to me to walk around this campus at Reynolds College and to be aware that this is a population that really is looking for stuff. So many people in the workshop just reminded me that matters of faith matter to people. People want to hear that they can be welcomed. And even yesterday, it was amazing to hear stories in our panel about people questioning, can I really be welcomed at MCC Richmond? Is it really a church where I can be? Yes. Yes, you can be. I was also reminded that these people are so looking for community. They're looking for hope. They're looking to be blessed. They want so much to just be affirmed and know that God loves them. Searching for something spiritual. It was with great joy that I said to people yesterday, it doesn't matter what you believe. We don't all believe the same thing. But we create a safe place for people to explore what spirituality means to you. I love that. Because we share a message of the kingdom of God where people are not left out. We share a message of the kingdom of God that's based on caring for people. We share a message of the kingdom of God that is not about power, is not about privilege, is not about being right, but we share a message about the kingdom of God that is about service. We share a message that is about acceptance. We share a message where we tell people over and over again that we care about you. That's the message of the kingdom of God that Jesus shared with people. We have heard for several weeks now, Jesus is getting ready to go to Jerusalem, and he continues to go to Jerusalem with the message of the kingdom of God. A message that was not about power, but a message that was about love. And his own disciples didn't get it right. Right? Remember when Jesus first said that he knew that he was the Messiah? Peter said, Messiah? What are you talking about? The Messiah has to be one of power. and strength. And Jesus said, oh no, the Messiah is about love. The Messiah would come and be realized in a barbaric death and resurrection. That's what the Messiah is about, Peter. And so Peter had to reimagine what the Messiah was about. And in so doing, he had to reimagine what the kingdom of God was about that Jesus was talking to him. And then later we learned, as Jesus was talking about ministering to the needs of all people, Jesus said leadership is not about prestige. Leadership is about welcoming the most vulnerable of these. And do you remember what Jesus did in that sacred text? He reached for a child, and he held up the child, and he said, whoever welcomes me will welcome one of these. Holiness is found in the child, which leads us to believe that holiness could also be found in us. Because Jesus redefined for people the beloved of God and made sure that all people knew that we are the beloved of God, just the way we are. And that's something to celebrate. And so today in our sacred text, James and John, oh Lord have mercy, did they not get it? Right? They were looking out for themselves first. They said to Jesus, but now when you come into your glory, in other words, when you get where you're going, right? When you realize and you're in this kingdom, we want you to grant our request. And Jesus said, well, what is it? He said it with care. What is it? I want to know. And they said, we want you to make sure that we're sitting at your right and your left. And I would imagine that Jesus had to bite his tongue a little bit. Because the kingdom of God is not about selfish need. The kingdom of God is not about making sure that we get what we want first. The kingdom of God is about looking out for neighbor. The kingdom of God is about looking out for other people, not about your own selfish need. And so Jesus said to them, you can drink the cup from which I drink, and you can be baptized into the baptism that I have. I don't think that James and John knew that Jesus was talking about the events of the cross that would come up. But then Jesus said, but to sit at my right or my left, oh no, that is not for me to grant. Because the Holy One, God Almighty, has reserved those places for those who will be of what? Service. For those who have an attitude of looking out for others. That's what the kingdom of God is all about. We heard about that last week as well. That we give of what we have because we just give back to God. We learned that the text does not mean that we need to go out and sell our possessions, but we need to have an attitude of giving to God what we have. And as we present ourselves, as we present what we have, lives are touched. Lives are changed. That's what all this is about. That's what Jesus wants us to get. Because it matters that people hear the message that they are accepted just the way they are. I was watching the news this week, and that's always a lively event in our household. And once again, I heard about our government leaders that are thinking that it's a good idea to begin limiting resources that we have that help people. I don't imagine that. I cannot wrap my brain around why we, a country that is so wealthy, would think it's the right thing to take money away from those who need it, for those who need to eat, for those who deserve fair housing, for those that need health care. Isn't that these leaders are saying that health care is an issue for the elite, for the privileged, for those who can afford it? I say that in God's kingdom, healthcare is meant for all people. And I began to imagine, what would the world be like if our governmental leaders, instead of taking programs away, could think about, how can we make sure that these programs are secure? What would our world look like? What would their world look like if our government leaders, instead of thinking about coming in first, instead of thinking about having their own needs met, could give a hint of God's kingdom where they might come in second, or they might choose to come in last, that they might find a way to have debates about welcoming the least of these. Now imagine that. Imagine that. And then, of course, I was confronted with my own reality. Well, I had to come to a place of saying, is this the way that I live my life? And is it fair for me to say that my government leaders should live their lives that way if I'm not willing to do it myself? And then, I got really excited, right? Because I started thinking, well, you know what? I do live my life in that way. And you know what? I'm proud about that. I am proud that we open our home when the electricity has been turned off. And some of our friends may not have air conditioning, or some of our friends may not have a place to bathe and have hot water. I'm proud of that. I am proud that people walk by my home and go, wow, y'all are doing a good job on this yard. I never knew that they'd care, which also means, they noticed all those weeds growing in there. Ooh, Lord. But we cleaned it up. I'm proud of that. I am proud that we have a home that people notice. I'm glad that we have feral kitties that we feed, and that our neighbors notice that. Because it says to people that we care. That we care that all things are created in God's image and they deserve to be treated well. I'm glad that we're a church that welcomes people who are hungry. That we think it's a big deal to take Panera bread and to rewrap it and take it to people who need to eat, that need food. And that we think it's important that when we're dancing at Babes, that people feel comfortable coming and telling us their stories. We listen to people. I think it's amazing that we're a church that it has the opportunity to do even more. That's why you should give to the annual giving campaign. And let's be clear. All of this happens because of God's grace. Because God looks upon us and says, the people at MCC Richmond are faithful. The people of MCC Richmond are making a difference in Richmond and beyond. So we will bag that bread and we will take it out. We will ask for donations to come into our food pantry. There are people in the community that want to be a part of what we're doing here. We just received a grant from Richmond Pride for $750 to go towards our food pantry. Do you see a theme here, people? Yeah, because you have been faithful to feed people, more is being entrusted to us to continue that ministry. I love that. I love it that we are the gay and lesbian people. That we say, you don't have to be gay or lesbian here. Come on and be a part. Come on and be a part. And people are noticing. Because we do not insist on taking our place first. We do not insist upon holding what we have. We model for people a kingdom of God that says all people are welcome, that all people deserve to eat, that all people deserve to know love. That's why you should turn in your investment slip. Because you know what I know about God? Even if you have to leave that investment slip blank. You watch God work in your life. Be proud of whatever you put on that card. And stand back and watch God work in your life. Because in presenting your investment cards to this ministry, what you're really saying is, I believe the Spirit of God is active in this church, and I want my life to count. Please don't miss out on God's blessings. Please remember to look around you, to serve your neighbor. Be concerned about the people around you. Yesterday, I heard over and over again people saying, it's the conversations that we have that help people know who we are. So who are we, MCC Richmond? Are we people that believe in the grace and the gifts of God? Really believe that? I think we do. And I think that's who we are. That's why we can have church, and that's why we can celebrate, and that's why we say together, amen. Amen. As we sing the sermon response, I invite you, if you did not